G'day guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel 1 week after my last video. I was on YouTube the other day and I got recommended this, no not that, this, a full-on Formula 1 press pen style interview for a Roblox racing league. And this got me thinking, how seriously do they take their racing inside of Roblox? This sent me down an absolute YouTube rabbit hole. They've got NASCAR leagues, IndyCar leagues, they have a Formula 1 league that even has pre-season testing. Williams couldn't even do that in real life, so that's pretty impressive. And it got me thinking, I absolutely, as the world's most serious sim racing esports athlete, have to try this out. When creating our account, we were faced with a slight issue in that I did not want to be seen in Roblox. This, however, was quickly overcome. As soon as I clicked create account, this is the first thing I saw, and quite frankly, I don't know where my Roblox stepsister is stuck, and I don't want to find out. So we scrolled down until I found the racing sim section. In there were like 5 or 6 games, and I decided to play Vehicle Legends Cars as it kind of looked the most like a racing sim. As soon as I got into this game, it tried to sell me something. This is going to be a recurring theme today, but nonetheless, once that pop-up went away, I realized that this game was a far cry away from the Formula 1 paddock interview I'd seen earlier, but nonetheless, I decided to persevere. I tried to get in a few cars and it wouldn't let me, so I asked this guy how to drive a car, to which he replied with W, which wasn't very helpful. So then I asked again, but I got deleted for swearing because I said Lamau. So after asking a third time, I then realized that there was a ginormous sign that said buy cars here. So I bought the only car I could afford, drove around, and then realized that this game wasn't great. So I decided to leave in search of a more serious sim racing experience. I'm gonna give this game a 2 out of 10. At least I got to drive a car, I guess. After typing Formula 1 into the search bar, I managed to come across this. It turns out the McLaren Formula 1 team actually have an official experience inside Roblox. I thought that was pretty cool, so I decided to check it out. After loading into a virtual version of the McLaren Technology Center, they immediately tried to sell me some stuff, so that was fun. Turns out a McLaren t-shirt in Roblox is like $2. I decided to pass on this, and as soon as I walked anywhere near this platform, that featured taxidermied corpses of Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, which you could also buy, by the way. I was met with the most tinnitus-inducing noise you've ever heard in your life, and the McLaren F1 car just popping out of the ground. The first time this happened, it scared the ever-living shit out of me. I cannot even begin to tell you guys how loud this was in my ears. But nonetheless, I thought it was pretty cool. There was a sign that said we could drive the McLaren F1 car. I thought that was awesome. I was looking forward to that. After exploring a little bit more, I decided to try the photo booth, and it completely broke my game and it crashed. So then we loaded back in and I wanted to try it again just to see if it would work. And it turns out the photo booth in the McLaren Experience just completely breaks your game. So that's fun. After loading in a third time, I decided we'd finally try to give the McLaren F1 car a go. I walked into the driving simulator portal thinking that that would allow me to drive the McLaren car around a test track or something. And basically I was loaded into an exact clone of the game we'd already played, and I really couldn't figure out how to drive the McLaren in this game, so I just went back to the McLaren Experience thinking I'd done something wrong. I then decided to try the ultimate driving portal inside the McLaren Experience, thinking this might allow me to drive the F1 car. Once I got into this game, they immediately tried to sell me something, but at least in this one, I was actually driving the McLaren. It's not a McLaren F1 car, but at least it's a McLaren, I guess. I couldn't really figure out how to drive the F1 car in this game, and I was about to leave, but then I was challenged to a race, and obviously I was taking him up on that offer. So I immediately loaded into this race. Turns out we're in equal machinery. I was about to Nico Rosberg this guy. This epic rock song started playing and he got onto a great start. He then immediately crashed though, and then I basically just crushed this guy. Clearly, being a 4K iRating esports athlete, these things are going to happen, you know? As soon as the race ended, I decided to show my respect in the text chat. And then I remembered this is a game for children, and I felt really bad, so I apologized almost immediately and then left. So upon doing some Googling, it turns out McLaren did collaborate with those games to add the F1 car into them, and you could of course buy it for real money. I was willing to do that for this video, but upon going through the car lists, the McLaren F1 was already removed, so that was great. So turns out the McLaren experience in Roblox is just them trying to sell you merchandise, and that's about it. So I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 10. The only reason I didn't give it a 0 was that the taxidermied lifeless corpse of Daniel Ricciardo is a pretty perfect metaphor for his career at this point. At this point, I realized I was going to need some help finding the actually good sim racing games inside of Roblox, so I did some research on YouTube and came across a bunch of videos, and a lot of them recommended this next game, Formula Apex Racing, so I decided to give that a go. As soon as I loaded into this game, I could tell it was probably better than the other ones. I had a quick look at the track selection and it was really good. The car selection was also okay, but we were basically destined to drive the Williams because that was the only thing that was unlocked at that point. I decided to load into a test session on Hockenheim, and after hitting the track in my Evans, it's definitely not Williams, it's Evans, guys, okay, there's no copyright infringement here. But nonetheless, after hitting the track on Hockenheim, it was okay. The physics felt somewhat okay, and the track limits were enforced. There was even ERS and DRS, so that was pretty fun. My biggest problem with the driving experience was that this Formula 1 car seemed to have the brakes off a $50 push bike you bought at Walmart. I don't understand why, but this car just did not want to stop whatsoever. Maybe it's because I had the Williams, I don't know. But nonetheless, the driving physics here were okay. At least you got given a T-cam view in this one, which I guess is what all the esports drivers use on F1 23, so I guess that's pretty good. So this game was kind of fun. I did a few laps of Hockenheim and then decided to do a race. As soon as I clicked the race button, however, the game crashed, so I decided to try it again, and then the game crashed again. So I decided to try it one third time where we did start a race and then the game crashed again. So I'm going to give this game a 5 out of 10 because the physics were pretty good, and from what I can tell on YouTube, the game crashing was probably a me problem. So this one was alright. I was pretty bummed we couldn't get a race in the Formula Apex game, but I figured that was okay since we're going to do a bunch of other games today and we could definitely get a race in on those. So I decided to move on to a game called Project Track Day. This one was actually pretty cool. It seemed really polished from the get-go, and the track selection was pretty great. The cars, however, were awesome, but we couldn't use any of them, so we were stuck using a GT4 Camaro, which itself is a pretty cool car, but when there were like so many epic options, that was a bit of a bummer. But nonetheless, I decided to load into a Monza session and take my GT4 Camaro for a spin. As soon as I loaded in, it looked really polished and the graphics looked way better than anything else we had done before, so that was pretty great. As soon as I hopped on track, however, the first thing I noticed was that my head was coming out of the roof of the car, which, you know, I'm used to as a 6-foot-tall guy, you know, but maybe they could have made that not happen, I don't know. But nonetheless, the car itself felt really good. I was really excited to do a lap, but then I accidentally pressed the space bar and it literally yeeted me out of the car. My car flew forward and I was just stuck on Monza. I thought this guy was coming to help, but then he just ran me over, so that was great. I then got to run up Monza a bunch for like 2 minutes trying to find my car. I asked people in chat where it was and they were somewhat helpful. But I was just running up Monza, desperately trying to find my car. I don't know how far it got up the track, but I couldn't even see it. But nonetheless, I just kind of walked up Monza until some guy told me I could teleport back to garage, which I guess I should have figured out on my own. But nonetheless, we did that. After doing that, however, we did a couple laps of Monza, and quite frankly, this game kind of slapped. The driving physics were kind of fun. We got a few laps of Monza in. The track itself was pretty alright. I mean, at this point, my standards had dropped rapidly, but for the standards I had for Roblox racing games, this thing went above and beyond. The car felt great. It could kind of get loose. It could kind of lose traction. I mean, the driving physics were definitely nowhere close to what you would call a simulator, or even a simcade. But it was really fun, and honestly, if I had a kid and he was playing this game, I feel like he could really enjoy it. So honestly, I'm going to give this game like an 8 out of 10. It was pretty good. When I was doing some research earlier, trying to find some good games to play, I came across this Australian teenager's YouTube channel. This guy's enthusiasm for Roblox racing is unmatched, and according to himself, he's pretty great at it, I guess.
I don't need a racing line. I will show it off for video's sake, but I'm already good enough at this track.
But nonetheless, he was driving the V8 supercar, and I was super excited to give that a go, being an Australian, so I decided to give Supercars 23 a go. I was really excited for this game because it turns out it had Mount Panorama in it, and it goes without saying, I quite like Mount Panorama. So nonetheless, we loaded in, I had a quick look at the cars, and it turns out they even have the Gen 3 V8 supercar, the brand new one. Even iRacing doesn't have that yet, so clearly Roblox is the superior sim. I decided to load straight in to Mount Panorama in the Gen 3 to give it a go, and it was alright. The driving felt good. The track map was fun. It had all the iconic features of Mount Panorama, such as the pit lane, the hotel, and of course the world famous drop into a void of nothingness on the right side of the mountain. Obviously everyone loves that feature of Mount Panorama, and that was pretty great that they decided to include that in such accurate detail. In all seriousness though, this game was kind of okay. The physics were good, but the track was kind of like very, very narrow, and the lap times were very off. I managed a 1:36, even though I didn't get that on film somehow, which is like 30 seconds off, but that's okay. The camera angle also kind of annoyed me. I was kind of stuck like really close to the car, but nonetheless, this one was okay. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. The guy who made it clearly had a lot of passion for V8 supercars, and that's really cool, but the tracks were really narrow and the game wasn't really that drivable. Now, I was going to load into a game called Formula Ion, which is the last game we're going to play today. It's meant to be the granddaddy of Roblox games. I was going to try a race in that game, but before we did that, this game literally took my eye. It is a classic Formula 1 game featuring a 1960s version of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, so I had to give that a go. As soon as I loaded into this one, the graphics didn't look great. In fact, not much looked great about this game, but I persevered nonetheless. I tried to spawn a car and it didn't really work, and I spent like 5 minutes trying to fix this. I loaded in like 3 times. It turns out you just have to click the ignition switch, which I didn't realize, but hey, this is a game for children, so clearly I'm an intellectual. But nonetheless, we got the car moving, and the track was like very bumpy. And I recognize that in the 1960s, the Nürburgring probably wasn't the smoothest road in the world, but this was like unplayably bumpy. So much so that we went over a bump, and my driver literally just fell out of the car. I didn't press any buttons this time, he just yeeted out. I decided to give this one more chance and drive the Lotus 49 at Nords, since I'd done that in iRacing recently, and I thought the comparison would be really funny. A few corners into the lap, however, I got damage and my car couldn't turn, and at this point I had what could only be described as a Niki Lauda moment. This was terrifying. Was he going to get out in time? Was this going to be the end of Dave Cam's Roblox career? Like, who knew what was going to happen here?
I'm the man that walked out of fire.
The crowd was literally screaming in terror the whole time. Like, literally. I don't know why they were doing this, but they were. However, I did manage to make it out of the car in time, which was great. I was really happy that my Roblox driver survived. And then I pressed the wrong button and got right back into the car. So, rest in peace. Sorry about that. Sorry that happened. This feels like a good time to move on to the next game, though. I'm gonna give this game a 3 out of 10. It kinda sucked, but the damage was cool, I guess. It was time for the main event of the day. Formula Ion Racing. According to everyone on the internet, this is the creme de la crop of Roblox racing. This is as good as you can get. It was time to take my talents to this game and absolutely dominate the Roblox esports scene. So as I loaded in, it seemed okay, except the menus were really confusing and I got stuck in them for like 5 minutes. I don't know if this was a problem with the game or a problem with me. It was probably the latter, but nonetheless, I'm gonna blame the game because that makes me feel better. Nonetheless though, after about 5 minutes, we managed to get into a server on Qatar, and the first thing I noticed was that we are sponsored by Pogatech, which is my favorite sim wheel company, so I was really excited about that. The second thing I noticed was at the top of my screen, there was a race starting in 3 minutes. It was finally time to prove myself. I was so pumped. I was so excited. I hit a curb and violently flipped over. But after that, I got to do some practice. The driving physics were pretty good for the most part. Everything except Project Track Day. It was probably better than this, but it was really good nonetheless. There were multiple camera angles. It was good. There was like a good level of grip, good braking. I didn't mind this game actually. It was pretty fun. But after that, it was time to race. I decided to click race. And then I got put on the grid, but then there was still a button that said click race. So then I clicked it again, and then I was no longer on the grid. And then the game crashed. So nonetheless, that didn't go great, but I decided to give it another go and relaunch the game. After relaunching the game, I found a server on the British track, and it was finally time to prove my skills. I got a few laps of practice in, and it was finally time to race. I was on the grid, I didn't click the race button again, I didn't fall for it this time. This was the most cursed version of Silverstone that wasn't Silverstone I've ever seen in my life. But nonetheless, it was time for the race to start. We're on the grid, I chose soft tires, and we're ready to go. The lights went out, I immediately got a great start, and from there, not a whole lot happened. I had no idea where I was coming, I had no idea what lap it was. I did for a couple laps have a great battle with this guy, but from what I can tell, my car was just really shit compared to everyone else's. Like, I was in an F2 car, and these guys were in an F1 car on steroids, so there wasn't a whole lot I could do, but I did have a fun battle with this guy. I thought I was doing okay, and then a message came on the screen and said that the race was over. I don't know why it was over, I don't know how many laps we did, I don't even know where I came. So I'm just going to assume I won since it didn't tell me, and I'm just going to take the victory, I think. I think that's the logical conclusion here. This game kind of sucked. I feel like Project Track Day was better in every single way. Quite frankly, I'm going to give this game like a 4 out of 10. I don't get why people like this. If you're going to play a Roblox racing game, just play Project Track Day, I guess. But nonetheless, I think it was time to call it on my Roblox racing career. Much like Nico Rosberg, I'm going to desperately clutch onto the one time I was able to beat someone in equal machinery and immediately retire from Roblox racing. Now, the answer to the question, should you download Roblox for a racing game experience? Absolutely not, no. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe for weekly sim racing videos, actually this time. Other than that, I stream 6 days a week on Twitch. Please give me a follow there, links are down below. Other than that, I'll see you guys next week. Have a great one, bye!